It's the final race of the weekend for the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge and Ginetta G40 Cup, the third race of the weekend, 10th round of their championship. And who's anything like the first two, I think we're in for an entertaining way to round out the weekend's racing here at Donington Park. We've had two races so far this weekend for the GT5 Challenge. Will Aspin and Josh Steed have been the two winners, but it could have been any one of a number of drivers really in both of those races. We've had our fair share of great side-by-side racing, a few sketchy moments out there as well, particularly in our most recent race, and I reckon there might be one or two drivers that unfortunately don't make it out there for this one as a result of some incidents in the previous race, but we'll see who makes it out there. Josh Steed is your championship leader in GT5 Pro from Will Aspin. He's 31 points ahead of Will Aspin now, after Steed has had a good weekend. Solid result yesterday, although he did lose out in the early stages, but then won our race earlier on today. It was a win yesterday for Aspin, and then just on the podium, third place in the race earlier on today. So over the course of the weekend, Aspin has closed down the gap to Josh Steed a little bit. He could do with a little bit more really if he's going to challenge Steed for the championship heading into the second half of the season. G40 Cup wise, meanwhile, it was Mark Warren victorious earlier on from Nick White, so that will be the front row of their grid, but we'll run you through the whole grid in a moment or two. A lot of cars to get through across the two different championships and two sub-classes within each of those championships as well, a Pro and an Am class in both GT5 Challenge and G40 Cup. Josh Steed then takes the pole position by virtue of his win earlier on today, with John Bennett alongside him for Elite Motorsport on the front row. Will Aspin second in the championship, third on the grid, ahead of Mikey Doble. That's one of his better starting positions of the year. Can he capitalise on it to get his first podium? Ben McKenna and Haytham Karajuli make up row number 3 of the grid, ahead of, on the fourth row, Owen Hizzy and David Elsley, who had a problem yesterday, but was getting well and truly stuck in today's second race of the weekend. Rounding out the top 10 then, Ignacio Zanon for Raceway Motorsports. Nat Hodgkiss, who has survived a terrifying spin down at the old hairpin with Ben McKenna. Ben McKenna in particular was lucky to avoid being collected as he spun across the road. Bill Rochford and Rory McKean are next. McKean was also involved in some contact in the previous race though, and Harley Horton we think will be alone. There is no sign of Will Orton on the 7th row, unsurprisingly, after his damage earlier on today as well. I suspect maybe Ben McKean might also be missing that particular incident. Magnus Kriklevi is next on the grid. There appears to be no Conor Grady though alongside him on row number 8. Row number 7, 8. I was right the first time. Then GT5 Am with Chris White ahead of Karim Sekat then at the front of the GT5 Am field. Mark Steele and Bal Siddi make up the second row of GT5 Am, and then we have Sean Peters and Paolo Santi at the back of that class. Then we miss a row on the grid. There's a 10-second delay, and then the G40 Cup competitors leave the grid. The Pro class led by Mark Warren and Nick White from the front row of the grid after Warren's win earlier on today. Brendan Maud had a spectacular moment in front of the leaders at one stage as he was being lapped, but he still finished third ahead of Tom Holland, and they share the second row of the grid. Then it's Rupert Laslett and Andrew Willis, who are the top two G40 Am contenders, ahead of Stephen Moore and Brendan Hafner, who also had a spin in front of the race leaders. Stephen Davis at the back of the grid after an off earlier on in the weekend for him as well, and there you can see him in the 15 car at the back of the field. So, the field working its way around then, 20 minutes of racing. Good to see, you know, that a lot of the spectators who have been here since the crack of dawn pretty much this morning have stuck around to the end of the day. You know, I might just be imagining this, but I do feel like a larger percentage of our spectators here trackside have stuck around to the end of the day than normal. Usually after our British GT race is finished in the middle of the day, a lot of them decide to make an early dash, and today of all days you would forgive them for wanting to do that, but no, they want to get their motorsport fix, and we hope that we can provide them with a thrilling final race of the day. So, the sporting event of the day about to get underway then with the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge, the third race of the weekend underway. There's a stall, in fact. I think that is Chris White, is it? No, it's not Chris White, it's 75, which has stalled in the middle of the grid but gets going again. Thankfully, everyone misses him, and we have a side-by-side battle into Redgate Corner with Josh Steed on the inside line. Nat Hodgkiss there on the inside of, Will Aspin on the inside for second place of John Bennett. and they come out of Redgate Corner with David Elsley also alongside Mikey Doble there for 4th position. Through the Craner curves they go then. Steed, the leader, very close between Aspin and Bennett, but Aspin will get the better of him into 2nd position. Elsley there in 4th, Doble getting hung out to dry now by a couple of other cars as well. Owen Hizzy that was, the 74 coming through, and then Nat Hodgkiss in the all-blue car just behind them, number 95. The slow starter, I think, was Rory McKean. 25 was the car, I think I saw, that didn't get off the line very well. Aspin in the grass, Bennett into 2nd, into 3rd should go David Elsley, who I think I'm right in saying hasn't had a podium yet this season, but Elsley is into a podium place now, and still Mikey Doble cannot find his way back onto the inside line. He's still side by side with Owen Hizzy, but there's a whole queue of cars right behind looking to try and find a way past him as well. Damage look to the front of John Bennett's car. The bonnet is coming loose, and maybe there was contact with Will Aspin that put Will out wide into the gravel. Through the chicane we go then. Bennett 2nd, Elsley 3rd, looking to try and find a way through. Watch for Hizzy to get the cut back there on Aspin coming out of the chicane, which he almost does. It's all getting very, very close as they come over the hill down towards the hairpin, and Josh Steed is starting to really break away here, very much as Will Aspin did in the previous race. Will got a big gap over the first lap, and then it took really Josh Steed the rest of the race to catch him, but catch him he did, and then pass him he did as well to take the race victory. Bennett, though, with this damage at the front, that's really quite loose, isn't it? That will be obscuring his vision into the slower corners. Hizzy there at the inside of that Hodgkiss. Mikey Doble has settled in line just behind Magnus Kruklevi by the looks of it, so he's down towards the back of the top 10 now, as off in the background goes Balsido, I think he would have been. Yeah, Balsido wide through the exit of Goddard's corner. Right, Hodgkiss on the inside there. John Bennett pitted. Sorry, I wonder where he'd gone then. John Bennett peeled into the pit lane. I didn't spot that. And that now means that Elsley then is into 2nd place, but the gap to the lead is 3 seconds after just 1 lap. That's an incredible start for Josh Steed. If you can break away on the first lap, then you can make life a lot easier for yourself, but it's difficult to do in these cars once the race settles down because the slipstream is so powerful. But if you can make the break whilst everyone's falling over each other at the start of the race, and that is certainly the easiest way to win one of these races, although we thought Will Aspin had done that earlier on this afternoon, or this morning I should say. That wasn't quite the case in the end though, was it? Side by side then up into Coppice Corner. Owen Hizzy there getting hung out to dry now. Number 46 goes on the inside, that's Ben McKenna. Ben McKenna started the race 5th, so he dropped back at the start. He's now got himself back into that 5th position as they race down the back straight. Mikey Doble joining in the fun as well. He's ahead of both Kruklevi and Owen Hizzy now. No doubting Mikey Doble's racecraft. He's come out of a very competitive one-make club racing championship, the BMW Compact Cup, but just hasn't always been on the right side of fortune so far this season. Elsley is not on the right side of the road going into the Melbourne hairpin, because at the inside of him went Will Aspin, and he snatches 2nd place away from him. Kruklevi there tries to go to the outside of Doble and succeeds only in opening the door for Harley Horton to get alongside. And they all head back up the hill again into Goddard's hairpin for the 2nd time. Ooh, the inside of Owen Hizzy goes the number 21 of Will Rochford, and he's going to actually left Owen quite a bit of room there on the outside. I'm not convinced that Owen had to drive onto the grass there, but they're still wheel to wheel as they go down the straight again. And Rory McKean is actually in the race. Look, Rory McKean right behind them with a patched up car. The right front corner is not the same colour as the rest of it, but great job there by the team to get Rory McKean into the race. The SVG Motorsport squad running Rory on his debut in the championship this weekend, and that black, yellow and a little bit more white than it used to be car has made some decent progress up the order. Now action in the G40 Cup here, and a spin, and that, I'm afraid, is Stephen Davis. Not the first time he's been off at that part of the circuit this weekend, and another one of the SVG Motorsport cars, they're not having quite such a good time of it. And he spins then, was already at the back of the field, but he'll be even further back now. So the leader then is Josh Steed, fastest lap last time around. There is Stephen Davis, he got going again. But the number 15 car with the novice cross on the back has no one in sight now. He's 27th, 5th within the G40 AM category, but last in the G40 Cup in general. Haytham Caragiuli's been in the pit lane for some reason as well.
This is now going to spell retirement for
So, and John Bennett is also back in, I'm hearing, to get the bonnet re-secured. They secured it, but not properly, so they've had to come in and do it again. On the inside here goes Mikey Doble on Ben McKenna, but he's going to have a lot of congestion in front of him, look, because Nat Hodgkiss and David Elsley are both hooking the inside of the road, but Doble might be able to come off the corner well. He does, and actually doesn't just get past Ben McKenna. He's now going to think about getting alongside David Elsley. Probably doesn't really want to be on the outside here, but he had such a good run, it just carried him alongside Elsley, and McKenna goes on the inside of both of them. Brilliant driving from Ben McKenna, and again Mikey Doble, just through no fault of his own, he gained one with a brilliant move at the hairpin, loses it straight back again at the very next corner. He gave Elsley a headbutt for his troubles as well, and that's dislodged the left front headlight and puts him under pressure from Magnus Kruglevi, Owen Hizzy and Harley Horton. Horton goes to the inside of Hizzy actually to take to hold on to, I should say, 8th place, although Hizzy then comes back at him again on the exit of the corner, and they lean on each other slightly through Hollywood, down the Craner curves, Horton over the curbs there on the inside line. The outside goes Hizzy, he'll go through on the way into the old hairpin, but then runs wider on the exit, so Horton in the Elite Motorsport car gets back alongside again, except not quite, actually. They're almost rubbing. In fact, there was definitely some contact there as they went up the hill towards Schwann's curve, and Hizzy manages to take the place. David Elsley there running a bit wide. Mikey Doble's back behind Magnus Kruglevi, so another place lost for him. But Nat Hodgkiss is the cork in the bottle here, isn't he, really? He's definitely holding up Ben McKenna. Elsley's right back with them again, and there's a screech of tyres, and that, I'm afraid, is the end of the Harley Horton Owen Hizzy battle, because they're both in the gravel. Hizzy's definitely not going any further. Horton actually does well to keep the car going, but that will require, at the very least, a live snatch, maybe a safety car, and a big slide, and somehow not a spin for Brendan Maud in the number 55 car. That's in the G40 Cup. Down at the old hairpin. So, as I started to say a while ago, Nat Hodgkiss in 3rd place is really struggling here to keep Ben McKenna behind him, and in his defensive driving tactics, it's backing McKenna into Elsley, Kruglevi and Mikey Doble. So a 5-car battle for 3rd is developing here. Well, Aspin there you can see has really gapped them now. Aspin was 2.5 seconds ahead of them at the start of the lap. He's pretty much doubled that now, I'd say, over the rest of this, the 4th lap of racing. On to lap 5 they go. The lead gap is 4.9 seconds. Will Aspin in 2nd cannot match the pace of Josh Steed, much as was the case in the previous race. Only then it was Steed catching Aspin rather than pulling away from him. The fight for 3rd then is going to be the one that keeps us entertained, I think, for the remaining 12.5 minutes of the race. And Nat Hodgkiss, after the contact that he had with Ben McKenna down at this sequence of corners, well, down at the old hairpin, really. McKenna tried to go on the inside of him into the old hairpin, couldn't get the car stopped. He ran into the side of Hodgkiss. They both went off. Hodgkiss spun, McKenna tried to rejoin, and as he did so, span across the front of Rory McKean's car, and somehow Rory managed to miss him. Now, I'm sure that will be playing on both of these drivers' minds. They won't want a repeat of that is for sure. So McKenna might just be a bit more circumspect in his attempts to get through. There's Chris White, by the way. Chris White is, I'm going to guess, leading in the GT5 AM category. Indeed he is. I did mistakenly say in the earlier race that his sponsors, Crockery Direct, were a haulage company. They're not, of course, but they are still very, very happy. I'm sure Chris is happy to have them on board, supporting him in his endeavours this year. Chris White, a quick driver, he's moved up nicely through the Ginetta ranks into that GT5 AM category now. So Ben McKenna looking to try and get the switch back on Hodgkiss, who's driving around the inside of the track here to try and keep him behind, but he's succeeding in doing so. Now watch Doble there in the 88 car, goes to the outside of everybody. They're all tripping over each other on the way into the corner, so Doble will carry a lot more speed off it than they do. 2 by 2 in front of him. Can Doble get to the inside of Kruglevi? He can't, so Magnus Kruglevi does manage to hang on to the position. Hodgkiss also holds on to 3rd. McKenna up the inside, though he's good on the brakes here into Goddard's, and Nat Hodgkiss will probably regret leaving that much room for him, because McKenna has already made some nice moves there, getting past 2 in 1 a couple of laps ago, and he gets past the 1 remaining car that was in front of him, Nat Hodgkiss, to take 3rd place away. The trouble is, though, that now Hodgkiss has the slipstream and tries to then outbrake him into Redgate Corner. That doesn't work, but if he's patient about this, Hodgkiss should be able to stay with him, use the slipstream to attack again in the future. Back to the G40 Cup. Mark Warren has been dominating the G40 Cup quite honestly this year. He's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the races, 6 of the 9 races we've had so far, including both of the races this weekend at Donington Park, and it looks as though he's on course to do the same again. He's 3.5 seconds ahead of Thomas Holland in 2nd, who's ahead of Nick White this time. And John Bennett is actually the next car behind Warren, who of course is recovering after his 2 pit visits and is 1 lap behind these drivers. So Bennett will be quicker than them because he's in the slick shot GT5 challenge car. McKenna then with Hodgkiss behind him, but Elsley is up the inside of Hodgkiss now for 4th. Oh, and Hodgkiss closes the door on Crooklevy. There's contact. Doble gets the run on the pair of them. And they come now out of Coppice down the exhibition straight. So McKenna we knew was in 3rd, but Elsley is now up to 4th. Hodgkiss in turning across the nose there of Crooklevy delayed Magnus, but not enough that Mikey Doble was able to get through. Through the chicane, all starting to run wide, especially David Elsley. I thought that McKenna had run wide, but Elsley did it properly and loses the place he just gained to Hodgkiss, and Crooklevy goes through, and Mikey Doble will get him too. So 3 places lost just through 1 little error. McKenna ran wide, he got 2 wheels on the dirt, and I think maybe Elsley was following him, but went a little bit wider, and ended up losing even more traction. So McKenna 3rd, then Hodgkiss 4th, Crooklevy 5th, and Mikey Doble in 6th position then. Mikey Doble's best finish of the season so far. I think he has bettered this, hasn't he? Yeah, he's had a couple of 4th place finishes as Doble, but he could still get on the podium if he can work his way through to the front of this group again. 88 car there, turns through Redgate corner. Rory McKean starting to close in on this little, well, big battle as well. Wind their way through this roller coaster sequence of corners, through the Craner curves. In these cars especially, that must be such a satisfying part of the circuit. You really fling these GT5 cars through that left-hander at the Craners, the right-hander at the bottom for the old hairpin. All about momentum, then carrying it up the hill into McLean's. Doble and Crooklevy there almost overlapping. Crooklevy keeps the red and white 66 car ahead. Back to G40 Cup now. There's the lead that Mark Warren's got. Now that John Bennett's cleared off, we can see the real gap now between the G40 leader, Warren, and 2nd, Thomas Holland. It's quite close behind Holland, though, isn't it? Nick White and the 37 car, which is Andrew Willis, pretty tight together. Actually, Willis, I seem to recall having a spin in race 2 earlier on. Coppice corner. In fact, it might have even been the 57 car of Nick White that he was trying to pass at the time. This does seem to be ringing some bells for me. So the 37 car then will be hoping for a cleaner pass this time. Well, he didn't get the pass done because he spun last time around. Very, very fetching livery on that 37 car. You don't see many sort of, is that burgundy? I think we can call that burgundy just about. Don't see many cars that colour anyway. It looks very nice. All right then, 7.5 minutes to go. A third of the race left then. This has all been static for far too long. You feel that it's just going to keep bubbling away, isn't it? And something will happen. McKenna can't quite escape from Hodgkiss, who of course can't escape from Crooklevy, Doble or Elsley. And then Rory McKean sort of almost caught them, but he just needs that last little half a second or so, doesn't he, to really be a factor in this battle. Making a 6-way fight for the bottom step of the podium. I remind you that Josh Steed still leads by 6.7 seconds. So Josh Steed is looking likely to extend his championship margin, but Will Aspin, 2nd in the championship, is 2nd in the race. John Bennett, with his real up-and-down season that Bennett's having, really, had a non-finish at Brands Hatch after winning and finishing 2nd in the early 2 races. Had a 1st and a 2nd at the season opener at Thruxton as well, did Bennett. Then they went to the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit last time out, of course, where Bennett had a win in the 2nd race, but a bit of a disaster in the 1st one, where he finished a long way down the order. So John Bennett can't seem to piece a full weekend together, can he? He's 3rd in the points coming into this race, but he's had his damage in this one. Pit stops, a lap down, not going to score many points. You do score points, I think I'm right in saying, for finishing top 15 within your class, though. Currently John Bennett in 26th overall. Is 12th within his class. So 6 minutes left on the clock then. And McKenna hanging on to 3rd place. Now that he's not defending from Hodgkiss, or Hodgkiss defending from him, I suppose, earlier on, that was backing everyone up, but now that the car at the front of the queue is not driving defensively, everyone's running at their natural pace, and so they're not sort of all falling over each other in quite the same way they were earlier on. There goes the race leader. Don't panic. That's not even the race leader, is it? That's Will Aspin, excuse me, in 2nd. I can just put Stephen Davis' G40 Cup car a lap down. And the fight for 3rd, which is almost separating a bit now. I wonder if that damage on the front of Doble's car is affecting him. It doesn't look like much, but losing the head like that, like the headlight like that, which is not easy to say, will not be helping the aerodynamics of the 88 car, because it's creating a big hole, obviously, for the air to go into, and then creating more wind resistance as it goes underneath the bonnet, and that's definitely going to be affecting his straight line speed. Oh, Stephen Davis there maybe got in the way slightly of Ben McKenna, and so all of a sudden the battle for third place is reignited. Nat Hodgkiss right on the tail of the 46 car again. He's got a bit of a gap to Cricklevy behind. Elsley here is up the inside of Doble, and Rory McKean is going to need no second invitation to follow him through as well. But yes, Cricklevy then did not get past Hodgkiss, and actually McKenna weathered that storm pretty well. He's got a bigger gap now over Hodgkiss than he had half a lap ago. But yeah, as I started to say, Mikey Doble, once he started losing the slipstream from Hodgkiss and Cricklevy ahead, it would have really started to show that damage. Cricklevy to the outside of Hodgkiss here, fourth position. No, not putting around the outside of the chicane. We have seen it done a couple of times, actually. Rima Jafali in our Formula 3 race earlier on did it, but that is a brilliant switchback manoeuvre there by Magnus Cricklevy to come off the chicane and get up the inside into the Melbourne hairpin. Got to get the job done though, get it stopped on the brakes, which he does. And is there an opportunity for Hodgkiss to get the switch back? I don't really think there is, although there is maybe a small overlap as they go up the hill. Ben McKenna really getting away now in third, so for fourth place is the battle. McKean up the inside of Elsley as well. Look, Cricklevy gets fourth, into sixth place goes McKean. From, where did McKean start this one? It was 12th on the grid, and he's now sixth place, although having to defend his newly acquired sixth place pretty robustly, as Hodgkiss goes for a real lunge up the inside of Cricklevy. He was never going to get that stopped, and Magnus knew it, and that was real presence of mind there for Cricklevy to just sidestep Hodgkiss almost, let him go, and then just calmly recollect the position coming off the corner. So Cricklevy then does make fourth place his own now, but they've dropped 2.5 seconds or so to McKenna up the road, and then Cricklevy is a bit wide at the old hairpin. So here, once more, will come the 95 car of Nat Hodgkiss. Looks to the outside, but he doesn't want to go there because the rapid Rory McKean is right there with them as well. I'm not convinced McKean's car is handling quite right after that big hit that it took in the earlier race, but just to get it out there is a pretty big achievement from the team. And now that he's in the fight, is showing his really good racecraft that has carried him to some really impressive results. Hopefully we can see Rory continue in the season, because he is a very, very talented driver, and I think had he been here for the full season, could have been a championship contender. 55 goes around. Now that is Bren Maud down at the Melbourne hairpin. Maud was fourth in G40 Pro. So that was an unfortunate incident for him, just ahead of the leaders by the looks of it, as here comes Elsley against McKean. We're about to start the penultimate lap of the race. In fact, the leader already has, such is Josh Deed's advantage. Another lock-up there for McKean as he tries to get past Hodgkiss. Important here that McKean doesn't get too carried away here. This has already been a great recovery drive from where he started. Not worth throwing it all away now, just for the sake of getting one more place into the top 5. Getting frustrated that he can't get past Nat Hodgkiss, who has not been an easy person to pass all day, certainly in this race. And Hodgkiss is, as he continues to defend, doing this usual thing of backing McKean up into Elsley and letting Magnus Cricklevy escape now in fourth place. Fair play to Hodgkiss, he's perfectly entitled to defend. Just because the cars behind seem a bit quicker does not mean that you have to let them through. So he's perfectly entitled to defend as long as he's not defending overly aggressively, squeezing people off the road, weaving around in the braking zone. He's not. It's a clean drive this so far from him. Elsley there to the outside of McKean, cuts back to the late apex through Coppice Corner, down the exhibition straight. McKean will potentially have the inside line, but Elsley almost with an overlap. That was the screech of tyres we could hear, and that is that's number 73, isn't it? Which is Stephen Moore, who was running fourth in G40 AM. G40 Pro still being led by Mark Warren, G40 AM by Willis, actually, number 37. The Andrew Willis car running strongly. As there, Brendan Ward gets out of the way of the fights that are going on here. Now, Nat Hodgkiss suddenly has got away here from McKean. I guess that's because McKean's been defending from Elsley, but as soon as he dropped McKean, he started to reel in Magnus Kruklevi again. That lap was a couple of tenths quicker for Hodgkiss. He's just about still within slipstreaming range. On to the final lap of the race, then David Elsley to the outside of Rory McKean. Can't get that done into Redgate corner, but what about out of Redgate corner? He's had a better exit, he's up the inside. Oh, don't close the door, Rory, that wasn't going to be clever. And Elsley just shoves him back out to the left-hand side of the road, but McKean's not going to back out of this. He's got the outside line, though, for the old hairpin. Can't go around the outside, and there's contact. That was, he was trying to cut back behind, I think, and get the better exit from the corner, but just didn't quite judge it right. And a little bit of a tap, no real damage done, but it loses his momentum, and will drop him some way behind that group now. Josh Steed, we haven't seen a lot of. It's rare that you see a race of the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge won by, well, more than a couple of tenths, really. This one's going to be won by possibly more than 10 seconds. Josh Steed was 9 3/4 seconds ahead of Will Aspin at the start of this, the final lap. He goes up the inside there of the Nick White G40 Pro podium runner. It's got a lap on him, and Josh Steed in a flawless performance here. He's going to come through to take another race victory. It's going to be his 6th race victory of the year. Comes out of the hairpin, then there he is, the number 58 car, to extend what was already a decent championship lead. A very, very happy Josh Steed wins our final Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge race of the weekend. Will Aspin will be second, Ben McKenna will be third. Who will be fourth, though? Because Nat Hodgkiss is up alongside Magnus Kruklevi into the hairpin. He's going to try and get the cutback, maybe. Kruklevi is a bit wide on the exit, but he's going to hang on, I think, to the line. The line comes up pretty quickly just as they come out of the final corner. So there, Magnus Kruklevi will be fourth. Nat Hodgkiss fifth. David Elsley is sixth, ahead of Rory McKean seventh, and Mikey Doble frustrated, I think, to end up in 8th place. Chris White is going to come home to take another GT5 AM victory. Say another, actually. This is only going to be his 4th. I feel it feels like he's been winning more often, but of course that crash at Thruxton put him some way back in the points. He is, though, the championship leader now in GT5 AM. Mark Warren is the championship leader comfortably in G40 Pro. He has had 6 race victories so far this year, and Mark Warren has not yet taken the checkered flag, but he is 4.7 seconds ahead of Thomas Holland in 2nd place, so will be taking the victory in less than half a lap. And in fact, the car then just behind Thomas Holland is Andrew Willis, who will win in G40 AM, and that will, I think, be Willis's... no, he has got a class win. He won the middle of the 3 races at Brands Hatch about a month and a half or so ago. There is Willis. Privately run car, as many of the G40 Cup cars are, I guess, but there are a lot of very good teams that run Ginettas, both in well, in all Ginetta's championships, really. These championships, G40 Cup and GT5 Challenge, Ginetta Juniors, GT4 Super Cup, GT Academy. Wherever you look, there is a Ginetta one-make series, and there are teams looking to run you, so you do a lot worse than approaching one of these Ginetta teams if you want to start racing. Mark Warren has been racing very well this weekend with another race victory in G40 Pro. 2nd for Thomas Holland, and 3rd in G40 is Andrew Willis, and he takes the victory in G40 AM. So, another entertaining race, slightly calmer maybe than the one earlier on this afternoon, but Josh Steed won't be complaining about that. He is a comfortable race winner and extends his championship lead that stood at 30 points coming into this race. He gets another 35 points for the race win. Did he have the fastest lap? He didn't. John Bennett had the fastest lap, so just 35 points for Steed. But that's still going to do him very, very well indeed. He'll now have a 35-point gap over Will Aspin, so a full race win's worth of points now, separating our top 2 in the championship as we are now into the 2nd half of the season. They've got 3 races next time at Snetterton, 2 at Croft, which will, I think, be supporting the British Touring Car Championship again, and then another 3 here at Donington for the Donington Decider. So just 8 races still to go. And Josh Steed is in a very, very commanding position in the GT5 Challenge. Race results then. Josh Steed gets the victory with Will Aspin in 2nd position. Ben McKenna was 3rd, Magnus Kruklevi 4th, and Nat Hodgkiss in 5th position. David Elsley 6th place, Rory McKean 7th, Mikey Doble was 8th, Harley Horton, ninth with Ignacio Zanon in 10th. Will Rochford was 11th and the last of the GT5 Pro runners home, of those that didn't have major issues anyway. Chris White in 12th wins the GT5 AM category ahead of Karim Sekat and Val Sidhu, with Mark Steele 4th in the class. Then it was Peters, Warren and Holland, with Mark Warren and Tom Holland first and second in G40 Pro. G40 AM won by Andrew Willis, their third place overall. Joining him on the G40 AM podium, Brendan Hafner, 21st overall. And despite a few issues in that race, Stephen Davis got himself on the G40 AM podium as well. Well, it's nearly time for us all to go home. Apparently that's where football's headed tonight as well. But before we do leave Donington Park, we'll have a little look back at the highlights of the third and final race of the weekend for the Ginetta GT5 Challenge and G40 Cup. So Josh Steed started from pole position. John Bennett was keen to try and get another good result to maybe challenge for second place in the championship. It was all to go wrong for John Bennett though. Although he did challenge for the lead, briefly had his nose ahead into turn one. There would be contact for Bennett somewhere around the first lap, which dislodged the front bodywork and meant that he had to pit twice for repairs. The G40 Cup cars got off the grid 10 seconds after the GT5 Challenge runners. As there, Bennett and Aspin came to blows at McLean's. Aspin went through the gravel. There was damage, as I said, to the front of Bennett's car. That would send Bennett to the pit lane. Off onto the grass went Stephen Davis, although he would eventually recover to a G40 AM podium finish. Whilst at the front of the field, the lead battle started to develop. Harley Horton was dicing away with Will Rochford, also Owen Hizzy through the middle part of the race, who had been running up inside the podium places. Owen got shuffled out a bit there at Coppice Corner. Ben McKenna didn't have a great start, but he was making some brilliant moves to move back up the order, getting 2 for 1 as he went up through Goddard's hairpin, whilst Horton and Hizzy started to really get close. In fact, too close as they went through Coppice Corner. Hizzy ending up beached in the gravel. Harley Horton, thankfully, able to get the elite car back on the road. Brendan Maud had an entertaining race, had a couple of moments. He was all arms and elbows here as he tried to, and succeeded in, saving a big slide at the old hairpin, whilst David Ellerslie, who had been running really well, ran wide at the chicane and lost a lot of momentum. In the G40 Cup, Nick White there was dicing away with Andrew Willis, whilst that Hodgkiss eventually was overtaken by first Ben McKenna, then Magnus Krickleby. That was Brendan Maud's second spin, right in front of the race leader, Josh Steed. That could have been a lot worse for Josh, whilst the 73 car of Stephen Moore had a rotation at the chicane. Rory McKean and David Ellerslie came to blows right at the end of the race down at the old hairpin. McKean thankfully avoiding the significant shunt that he had at that part of the track earlier on this morning. And Josh Steed went on to win the race by nearly 12 seconds. A dominant performance to extend his championship lead in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge.